Now let's talk about everyone's favorite topic apparently around here, the backup quarterback controversy. Watching that game against Washington, my main takeaway was, wow, this offensive line is terrible. I feel bad for Nick. I feel bad for CJ. I feel bad for Jimmy and anyone who has to play behind it. A lot of people's reaction was Jimmy is the reason the Niners are bad Nick is the reason. Nick is the reason the Niners are bad this season. He needs to get benched now. He needs to go. He shouldn't be on the team next year. CJ should finish the season. That surprised me. It felt like actually where we're at, that's a footnote. I don't know.
Let's try to set out. You're going fast. So let's try to slow down a little and say what we're talking about. After the game on Sunday, you were on the Zoom call. I wasn't.
No, not yesterday.
Monday, during the presser with Shanahan. I did read the transcript, but you were there. And my impression is that 4 different journalists asked questions about Mullins. And
it was like the first question was, are you going to bench Mullins? The second question was like, why aren't you benching Mullins? The third question was, why doesn't Mullins get any better and aren't you coaching him? And then the fourth question was like, how come you didn't have a better backup quarterback entering the season? That was basically, yeah.
Okay. So the context is, now I'm going to be critical of the local media, and this is tough because I know these people and they're my friends, and I'm sure they're sore at me because I have been somewhat critical of them as the season has evolved. It seems to me, I don't know why they're after Mullins so much, and why they were so outraged that Shanahan didn't bring in CJ Beathard to play the second half. I mean,
there's a reason.
The game, Whitner and Garcia were angry. Who the hell is CJ Beathard? What was he going to do? I mean, was he going to be any better? He stinks. I'm sorry, CJ. You shouldn't be on the team. I don't think you should be in the league. So what I'm saying is, it's a false argument. And then today, I read an article by a friend of mine who, wrote that at the top of the list for the 49ers going forward and creating their roster, at the top of the list is getting a good backup quarterback. And I just thought about it, and I thought, would Ira Miller ever write the top of the list is a backup quarterback? No, the top of the list is the quarterback.
The starting quarterback.
The starting quarterback. They don't know.
And then the right tackle. And then the corner. I mean, usually starting roles are a little bit more important than the backup roles. Usually.
Yeah. So, I wrote a tweet.
I mean, the problem with the Niners this season wasn't that Nick Mullins stunk. It's that Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt.
And couldn't be on the field.
That's the problem.
And the problem was, even before he got hurt, he was no good. At the first game of the season, at home, he got beat by Arizona. I'm correct on that, right?
That's right. And he's bad.
So they don't have a starting quarterback. It seems to me to focus on this and to go after poor Nick Mullins. No one said he was Johnny Unitas. It seems to me, you said a footnote. I agree. It's off the point. It's looking in the wrong direction. And when you write these things or say these things, I want to say it's misleading people who are trying to understand what's going on the team. So I want to talk a little more. This morning, I read an article saying that, they need the high priority, that number one priority is a new backup quarterback. I don't think Ira Miller would ever write that. I wrote about a certain writer, and he called me, and his feelings were hurt, and I could see why. And to be honest, I really like this writer. I consider him a friend. I feel bad and I feel guilty because I'm a Jewish guy. I was born with an extra gene for Jewish guilt, although Iggy doesn't have it because his mother's Italian. So there was nothing personal in what I wrote. It's just I felt, God, I can't believe that these people are so focused on something that's irrelevant. And it kind of bothered me. Iggy, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I understand having very hard criticism for a franchise quarterback who's making $30 million a year, or a first-round pick, someone with real expectations, making millions. But for everyone to have the same take, and for everyone to gang up and bully the backup quarterback who's an undrafted free agent making $750K, like, first of all, you're just kicking a guy when he's down. It's not hard. You're not going after anyone with power and influence. It's low-hanging fruit.
And Iggy, it's bullying.
It's bullying. Nick Mullins, great. We all ran Nick Mullins out of town. Nice. Good for us. We flexed our power. Like, why don't you go after the starting quarterback or the head coach for once?
Iggy, that's the other thing
I'm the owner.
But that's really bothered me this season. They never went after the owner when he ran out on the team. The head coach, he's done a very good job considering all the injuries and COVID, of course. But he's done very many things that we've questioned. And it doesn't mean that you're being a bad person by questioning the head coach. A journalist's job is to question power, to be skeptical of power. And I have to say, Iggy, if I were there, I would be skeptical of Shanahan. I would ask him hard questions, as I did with every other coach that was there, including Harbaugh. And Harbaugh appreciated it. Bill Walsh appreciated it. They don't want to feel that they have a bunch of ciphers in the room with them.
The reason that I brought this up and why this whole thing is so interesting to me is because I'm on these press conferences, I'm on these Zoom calls with Kyle Shanahan, and when 3 of the first 4 questions were basically like, the beat writer's way of pressuring a coach to do something he doesn't want to do, like, you're gonna bench him, right? You're gonna bench him today, right? Tell us you're gonna bench him. It's like, that's the story today. My question, which I asked about 4 minutes in, was, Kyle, are you confident Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play again this season? To me, that's the story. Jimmy's the starter. He said, I wouldn't say I'm confident. And he went on and on and on about why, the doctors have to give him the clearance and how they need to get him healthy for next season. To me, that's the question. If Nick Mullins...
Also, hold on. Not only is that the question, that's the news.
It's the news.
What came out of that conference yesterday was not Nick Mullins. It was Jimmy. Is he going to play? And all the implications that we went over a half an hour ago. That's the news. And that's what I used to do. On any beat, there are X number of people who cover a team on any beat. And there tends to be, and I've known this for 40 years, what I'd call a herd mentality. Iggy, I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, what's the story today?
Is the writers, they mean well and they want to be good journalists. But sometimes there's an easy storyline and they'll go for it. Like, Nick Mullins is no good. What are we going to do? It's irrelevant to what's happening. And they don't want to get beat on the story. Right. So if somehow, and I don't think they make a conscious choice to do it. I don't think they're in collusion. I don't mean that. But somehow they all choose the same or similar topics, so that way no one will get beat and look bad.
Right. So when Maddie starts the press conference with a question on Nick, everyone's like, "Oh, well, Nick's the story today. I got a question on Nick."
Right, because Maddie is so good.
Yes.
And Maddie is so powerful.
Exactly. Oh, that's the story. Maddie. Yeah.
Right. So if Maddie asks it, then you think, "Oh, I was thinking B, but Maddie asked A. A must be the story." My attitude is, I never wanted, Iggy, to write what other columnists were writing. Otherwise, what did they need me for? I wanted to write what I want to go into this before we answer this question. What I really wanted was to be distinct, have a distinct point of view and a distinct voice. And I have the impression that you feel the same way. Whatever seems to be the topic du jour is not necessarily where you're going to go. Ira Miller didn't go there. He'd be damned if he would. What interests me today? What is newsworthy today? What's important today? And I got one more thing to say. Columnists earn more money than beat writers. And the reason they do is because we are quote unquote stars. I don't have an ego like that. I'm telling you how newspapers think. They pay us more, but they pay us to have our own opinion, to be forceful and to write well. It's very scary to be a columnist because you're out there, fans go after you, and players and management can go after you. I knew one columnist, and I won't say who he was or where he wrote. I would see him in the press box going over to someone from another paper and say, "What's the story today?" And I used to my head would spin. You're getting paid a lot of money to know what the story is.
Mhm.
You're there for your ideas, and the idea that you would consult with someone else and from another paper, it just it blew my mind, Iggy.
Right.
So what I would say is, whatever success, minimum success I ever had, a lot of it was based on the fact that I would not be part of the herd, and I would be Lowell for better or for worse. And I've taught Iggy to be that way too.
Yeah, I like to ask the question other people aren't asking. I try to follow in that tradition because I know Ira wouldn't be like, "Oh, that's the question today. I'll do that." It just surprised me that oh, today the topic on Monday is run Nick Mullins out of town. Blame Nick Mullins for the entire season. That seems a little intellectually dishonest. Can we get back on topic, please? What about the starting quarterback? Is he going to play again? And if not, why? It's supposed to be a 6-week injury. That's the story. No, we need a quarterback. There is no such thing as a backup quarterback controversy. It's not a story. It's not. It's really not.
I was thinking about being your own person. Ira Miller went to Penn State, and Matt Millen went to Penn State. And he knew Matt Millen very well. So Matt Millen, they brought him over to the Niners, and he was coming off the practice field, but the PR guy said, "Listen, no one go on the field. We'll bring Matt over, and he'll talk to everybody." Well, Ira knew Matt Millen. He walked right on the practice field, and he engaged Matt Millen, got a private interview in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And afterward, when he got off the field, the PR guy says to Ira, "You never follow instructions." And Ira said, "You're damn right."
Yeah.
Damn right I don't.
Yeah. That's why I'm Ira Miller.
Matt Millen.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to go in the Hall of Fame, and all these other beat writers who follow directions are just going to be the guys writing the stuff that is all the same. Yeah. They didn't get Matt Millen today, so they're going to go with whatever player the PR staff made. That's what happens. The PR staff makes a couple players available, and everyone just goes with what's presented. It's usually one obvious angle. That's the best.
Yeah, so and you understand in the COVID,
it's hard.
The PR staff has to do that.
It's hard.
It's hard for them. It's not like you can go into an open locker room. So I don't fault them, the PR staff, at all. They have to make players available, and they can't make 50 or 60 players available, but they do control the narrative, and it's unfortunate the way this has worked out. And what it means is sometimes you have to dig a little deeper than what the PR staff is able to give you.
Yeah. And I guess what we're saying, I don't know. I think it's time for the 49ers press corps to start looking big picture. I respect their passion about the backup quarterbacks, because not many people are passionate about backup quarterbacks. I respect how deep into football they are, inside football, but I think it's time to start thinking about who's going to be the starting quarterback next year. I think this is the story. And does the current starting quarterback still want to play here? That would be, if we could get some investigative journalism on that, that would be wonderful. Some connected people out here. What's up with Jimmy?
And you know what, Iggy? Another topic is, why hasn't the head coach created a better quarterback rotation on that team? Why hasn't he done better? These are very important questions to ask. And the point is, they're legitimate questions.
Yes.
They are legitimate questions. And if Kyle doesn't want to talk about it, find somebody else to talk about it.
And I really hope the Niners aren't thinking like this too. If they think, hey, it's all Nick Mullins' fault, he makes our offensive line look worse, he makes our offense look worse, it's all Nick Mullins' fault, then they will have the same problems next year that they had this year, because this year was a product of denial at the quarterback position, the starting quarterback, and at offensive line. There was no bad luck at those two spots. That was just the Niners' plans falling apart. They need to honestly address both positions.
And Iggy, I'd say we could go a little further even. If they bring back Jimmy next season, and I'm not objecting to it, because he may be the best they can get, he may very well get hurt again, and then they have Nick Mullins again, or Nick Mullins somebody else. But a backup there, and if they end up with a backup again, it's their fault. Not their fault.
Oh yeah, they got to find a new right tackle and a new right guard. Otherwise, bringing Jimmy Garoppolo back doesn't help.
Right.